Hello, my friends, dear friends and companions of the analytical channel of Deep Dive. Thanks for joining in. Today, we're going to have a long video on Iran, Trump, Russia. I'm happy to be with you in another program. Today is Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. There are two important issues happening that I want to talk about. And both are very interesting. One is a discussion about Ukraine negotiations in Ukraine, the events that have occurred against Ukraine and need to be addressed, specifically the viewpoint within the country, not just the media discussion and experts who speak in the media inside and outside the country, but also from senior officials and uh, their perspective on Russia-Ukraine crisis, which I will talk about in another session. The discussion about Ukraine is still ongoing. However, another issue that is related is the recent report of the IAEA in the IAEA Board of Governors meeting, which is a subsidiary of the United Nations, as you know. As I said it before, IAEA has a quarterly meeting at the end of each quarter, and usually one of the cases that is always discussed is the issue of Iran. Well, this time too, in March, they have their program. Mr. Grossi, Rafael Grossi, has again raised an issue, so he has brought up the Iranian issue and expressed his concerns, which we want to talk about. Now, the link between this matter, meaning the discussion between the IAEA, the Iran file in the IAEA, and Iran's nuclear issues, with the discussion about Ukraine and the U.S. Russia negotiations is something that has been widely reported in the media recently, especially the Farsi language media, which try to address this issue. And despite Russia saying that this issue is marginal, the Farsi language media covers it significantly, stating that the US and Russia are negotiating on Iran's nuclear issue. Well, let's go through the report one line at a time. First of all, let's see what new points have come up in the IAEA report regarding Iran's nuclear issue. Let me read a few sentences from the news coverage. It says that the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, while expressing serious concerns, informed the Board of Directors, informed the Board of Governors that Iran's enriched uranium at a concentration of 60% has increased to 275 kilograms. This amount of enriched uranium at this level can quickly be upgraded to the 90% level, which is only used in the construction of the nuclear weapons. Now, according to this article, although 90% is also used in the propulsion of the nuclear submarines by advanced countries, I'm not saying that Iran has currently nuclear submarines that can operate with nuclear propulsion, but I want to say that this claim that it is only used in the construction of weapons, well, this claim is not true. And they made this claim about Iran. You have passed a significant stage and empowered yourself. Let me put it this way. You saw in the confrontation between Trump and Zelensky in that Oval Office of the White House, Trump constantly told Zelensky, you have no cards. You have no cards. And if you want to have a card, it is America that can help you with. This is something that, if you have seen, I said, I've mentioned it before, Game card, I said leverage. These are the things when you come to negotiation table, it is going to help you. You need leverage, you need game card. That is someone who wants to enter negotiations from an equal footing, or at least be able to maintain their red lines, must have game cards, must have leverage. Well, reaching the 60% enrichment level or the ability to go to 90% or weaponization is a game card. It can be used in various ways. Well, I wanted to say that it says that the amount of uranium Iran has now enriched to 60% is enough to prepare six atomic bombs. For the past 8 months, Iran Iran's 60% enriched uranium reserves have entered a rapid growth trend that can suffice for building one more bomb each month. That was 8 months ago. So we said that every 3 months, at the end of each quarter, they have a meeting 3 months ago. Even Mr. Rafael Grossi himself came and asked the Europeans not to again act against Iran, not to pass a resolution against Iran in the Board of Governors. At the time, it was Mr. Pezeshkian's government in place, and the U.S. Itself, at the end of Biden's term, was not very insistent to pass that resolution. However, the Europeans came and passed a resolution against Iran in the Board of Governors. Iran said that since you did that, we will increase our capacity, increase enrichment capacity, speed up enrichment, and some other options. And regarding Fordo, as far as I know, the Fordo facility itself, which is more fortified in terms of defense and is located inside a mountain, is still enriching to 60%. That is, if they start moving advanced centrifuges to Fordo and produce 60% there with advanced centrifuges, they have made with new cascades and new screw designs that significantly increase the speed of enrichment and are much better in terms of defense. Uh, the Europeans did that. Iran implemented its threat. It went ahead with the threat that it made. And it is very interesting that in the continuation of the report, you see that this amount is without considering the uranium enriched with a concentration of 20% and lower levels that Iran possesses. So in the past 8.5 months, Iran has a large amount, I think maybe several thousand kilograms of 3.5% uranium, which is converted to 20% and to 60%. And that can be converted to 90%. It says that the capacity that Iran currently has in terms of 60% enrichment is enough for six atomic bombs if they are converted to 90%. Well, it is also being produced from the lower levels and going up. And the 60% enrichment capacity that Iran has now created is sufficient to produce materials needed for one nuclear bomb per month. Well, this can become much more than this, and this capacity can increase. Rafael Grossi, the Director General of the agency, told representatives of the member states of the IAEA Board of Governors of the uh, at, at the meeting that was held at the headquarters of this UN affiliated nuclear watchdog in Vienna on Monday. I think it was March 4th. Uh, since his last report in November 2024, Iran enriched uranium reserve at 60% had increased to 275 kilograms, which before that was at 182 kilograms in the previous report. Well, another point I want to make is that Mr. Grossi recalled that since 4 years ago, Iran has suspended its nuclear commitment under the JCPOA, especially the additional protocol, which has significantly reduced the IAEA's oversight of Iran's nuclear program. Although Iran is a member of the NPT and inspections at the NPT level exist, a final sentence here. The 50% increase in Iran's high concentration uranium reserves in the past 3 months is the 3 months prior to that, the growth was only 11%. So not only the pressure from the IAEA and European countries and the issuance of the resolution against Iran in 2024, but also the coming to power of Trump can be effective in this regard. That Iran has tried to increase its weapons, its cards. Now, I wanted to mention a point to my friends here. It seems that this month's reports, despite the serious concern expressed, no special action is going to be taken against Iran at the IAEA. And it seems that they will give an opportunity or say something mild, something very nice to give a 3 months opportunity. And it seems that June of next year, I mean this coming year, not next year, which is almost about 3 months from now, if the Europeans really want to do something, they have to make a decision there. We said that in the coming October of 2025 is a discussion of a snapback mechanism and the report that according to UN Security Council Resolution 2231, the Secretary General must constantly give regarding Iran's nuclear program and the JCPOA. That 10-year period that started in 2015 ends in October 2025. And if the Europeans want to take action regarding the snapback mechanism, they must finalize it by around mid-summer. Therefore, the Board of Governors meeting I think it's in June of 2025, is very crucial and key regarding the snapback mechanism. And that's the other point. So the IAEA report is done for the next 3 months. Another reason for this might be to see where the U.S. Russia negotiations on Ukraine are heading and whether, for example, the U.S. can reach interactions with Iran through Russia because direct channels right now are closed from both sides mainly because Trump's conditioned for direct talk and he's implementing his maximum pressure campaign. The relationship between the U.S. and Europe, this is Trump's Europe and Trump's U.S. and Europe is as one of its worst historical estates in the past decades. And the question of whether Europe would be willing to listen to Trump regarding the snapback mechanism is itself a question. Currently, the conflicts and disagreements between them are very high regarding NATO, Europe's security umbrella, and trade relations between Europe and the US. The Ukraine issue, the Russian issue, various issues that exist between the US and Europe have placed the Iran files in the lower ranks. That's a fact. We cannot deny that. So now, another very interesting point that was reported just 2 or 3 days ago, I read, is that the official in charge of the Iran desk at the U.S. State Department in Trump's second term has not been determined yet. Previously, in Trump's first term, it was Brian Hook. You guys remember him? Glasses and talked quite a bit. Uh, This time, Trump has not brought him back. Uh, just the way he did not bring back Pompeo, John Bolton, Nikki Haley, and a few others. And there was a security umbrella in place for Brian Hook that the federal government had for him over these individuals due to the fear of the Soleimani assassination incident, has also been removed by Trump. He has even uh, taken away their security guards. Well, someone like Brian Hook, who was in Biden's administration, Mr. Robert Moy was there, and then his assistant came in. These people have always had a person in charge of the Iran desk at the U.S. State Department for I think the past 2 decades. I think right now it's now even turned into an Iran center. It used to be Iran or Iran room, if I'm not mistaken. It used to be Iran desk and then Iran room, and um, but right now for the past 2 decades we have had a person in charge. Now we don't have anyone at the Trump's administration. Uh, Now in Trump's second term, the person in charge of the Iran desk has not yet been determined. The person in charge of the nuclear file has not been, I'm talking about the Iran nuclear file, has not been determined. The news came out that Mr. Witkoff, who is advancing the JCPOA and the Ukraine program and so on, and that Mr. Witkoff might come back as the head of the Iran Center. Uh, but I think Trump denied that. Therefore, the Iran nuclear file has no one in charge. So, very interestingly, my friends, except for the quick signing of the maximum pressure policy against Iran before the meeting with Netanyahu, which I said it was as if he wanted to sacrifice a lamb for him, for example, before Mr. Netanyahu's honorable arrival at the White House or whatever. Mr. Netanyahu is coming, let's sacrifice a lamb on the way for on his arrival. He came and signed that maximum pressure campaign. He said he didn't even want to, and so on. He didn't. He said, I don't want to even sign it, so I'm doing against my will. I love Iranian people." Anyways, very interestingly, there's absolutely no talk about Iran from Trump's side, not from senior White House uh, members either. Even in Trump's speech last night in the U.S. Congress, was, as you know, the U.S. president gives a speech to the Congress every year, and the most important of which is the one that he gives at the year he won the election. So for Trump is this year, this speech last night. All the members of U.S. Congress are present at this meeting. It's a bipartisan meeting so it's very important. Interestingly, in last night's speech by Trump, he did not talk about Iran at all. Not at all. Well, why 4 years ago when he was in the office in his first term, he spoke about Iran in all 4 years of his first term. He did when he gave his speech at the Congress. He didn't talk about Iran at all last night. Well, this shows that the issue of Iran is not important or key at this moment for Trump's administration. I think it's neither, on the high ranking for the European countries. Uh, it is an important point to consider this that he did not talk about Iran at all. Another point is that it seems that Trump administration, given the widespread disagreements it has with the Europeans, uh, he probably wants to advance. the Iran nuclear file here, through whom one option is Russia. And when he wants to advance it with Russia, it seems the discussion is not about confrontation. It seems that Trump wants an assurance. Uh, that's right. I mean, he wants a way. He wants, when we see the talks of Russian officials now and the talks of U.S. officials, the discussion is not about confrontation. The discussion is about the U.S. becoming reassured that during Trump's term, uh, the Trump's administration, Iran, he wants to be reassured that in 3 or 4 years that is left from his term, Iran will not move towards nuclear weapons capability. Well, you know, it's kind of a point that everybody knows that every US administration passed the Iran nuclear file, the entire Iran file to the next administration. Because if they really want to resolve it through diplomatic and peaceful means, the Israeli lobby won't allow it. Congress won't allow it. Hundreds and thousands of domestic opponents won't allow it. Opposition, the US opposition um, to the sitting president won't allow it. The radical Iranian oppositions outside the country starts its own hooliganism, setting things on fire, throwing things around, throwing themselves under the train, doing these kinds of, antiques so that the issue is not resolved. And war is also not an option for Trump. You know that there is no expectation for it inside the US, nor is it even possible for them to engage in a widespread military conflict. Therefore, the US presidents keep passing the Iran issue to the next one. Now, Mr. Trump realizes that it is his last term and he has important issues to work on. That is, you know, he's dealing with important files. Now, the discussion about Greenland, the discussion about, if you may, Canada, Panama, various new issues, the same Europe and China and all of Gaza, all these many discussions he wants to have. When he wants to handle all these issues together, he doesn't want to get into the conflict, into any sort of conflict with Iran, not even a confrontation. He knows that Iran can cause harm, and also, Trump has launched a campaign in terms of media and his friends and close associates to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And it is become something very important for him, especially that Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize. He really wants this Nobel Peace Prize really bad. Trump wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize, and he's quite adamant. He doesn't want to ruin his chances of winning the prize. So, but he wants to say that he did not start any wars and that he is pursuing peace and all that. And he wants to create peace everywhere, in Ukraine, in Gaza, and so on. And this ties America's hands somewhat in terms of its tools, meaning the military tool, the diplomatic tool, the economic tool, and sabotage and espionage. That is, when you are sure that they are not going to use the military tool or are not going to use these tools like the way Bush and Obama did, in fact, what did they say? They used to say, if you remember, all options are on the table. But this military option is not entirely on the table in this administration. If they are now sure that Iran is not going to produce nuclear weapons, then he's reassured and says, okay, let me get through these 4 years and focus on the other things. The important thing for Iran is for the snapback mechanism to be consigned to history forever. I think the most important thing for Iran is to pass October 2025 in a situation where the snapback mechanism is not activated. And Resolution 2231 becomes history. The Iran nuclear file is removed from the Security Council, and the Secretary General of the Council and the committee formed by the Secretary General of the United States, which has to report on the Iran nuclear file every few months. Their work is finished and set aside. Okay, they say, okay, this is done. Iran wants to reach this point. Now, some in Iran may believe that before this, the Europeans may activate the snapback mechanism. I don't know. Israel may attack, the US may attack, so we should go ahead and unveil the atomic bomb, the nuclear bomb sooner before they activate the snapback mechanism. Some may believe that we should let October pass, the Security Council resolution and legal discussions and all, then it will be easier to deal with the issue. This has an important point that I want to address now, and that is that Iran has kept its hands open, its options to have flexibility in the conditions that arise and to be able to use its options. This is very important. You also saw in the Ukraine negotiations, the longer the U.S. negotiations and the Ukraine war between the U.S. and Russia, in which Europe and Ukraine and others are also involved, the more complex the Ukraine war uh, negotiations become, the better it is for Iran and for this trend. The sooner it ends, the worse it is for Iran. It should continue as long as possible uh, in terms of Iran's point of view. And uh, this conflict, dispute, I don't know, the agreement on these rare minerals between US and Ukraine, where the US is putting heavy pressure and Ukraine is also giving in. It can't do anything else. Ukraine cannot do anything. I mean, uh, Zelensky did what he could to postpone the signing over the minerals right to US, but I think that's as much as he could do. And right now he can't do anything else. Has no options, no cards. It had completely handed over its security to the US and is giving it. The US quickly saw that Ukraine had become arrogant and wanted to make a deal with Europe instead of the US. So, as it was announced a couple of days ago, it suspended all its military aid to Ukraine. Suspended, only suspended. Uh, Now we see that Ukraine will return to the White House to just sign everything over. That's it for Ukraine because the military aid was suspended and Ukraine has no other option. This time, Zelensky probably wants to take the French President Emmanuel Macron and that British Prime Minister as his mediators. Uh, he wants to make them with it. He wants to take them with him to the White House. Therefore, the longer this war, the end of the Ukraine war negotiations, the better it is for Iran. That's obvious. The more the difference between the US and Europe increase, the better it is for Iran. The more I guess, severe the conflict between the US and China is, it is better for Iran because it takes the focus away from Iran. Uh, the US is also giving contradictory messages um, and signals on China or to China. On the one hand, it is imposing heavy tariffs on Chinese goods. And on the other hand, Trump is inviting China and says, okay, no, China, just come here, invest in our country. I won't do anything to you. And so on. And we need to see where the US China path leads. Most of the things the US is doing in the areas of Canada, Mexico, Panama, and Europe, elsewhere. Most of it, Russia and the Russian war. Um, the reason for improving relations with Russia, the main issue is China, because Trump wants to focus on China. We have talked about this before, and we will talk about it in the future. The main competition is between these two major superpowers that are trying to bring natural resources, corridors, and allies as much as possible to their sides. I have another point to make, and that is that look at what Iran has done, although perhaps it could have done better, done more. It is very interesting. Many friends say, okay, you missed the Biden era, meaning that you could have, Biden was very soft and you would have been able to negotiate with Biden and you missed that window. Uh, but think about it. If a half-baked agreement had been reached during the Biden era, President Trump would have been able to seize it or withdraw from it or force Iran to come and sign a heavier agreement. Um, wouldn't that have practically given the American advantage? Iran would have lost its leverage, just like it did with the JCPOA. In this sensitive situation where the US is now creating an understanding with Russia, and we are approaching the end of the snapback mechanism, it is very important that Iran keep its various options in hand to be able to negotiate. Um, whether directly or indirectly, or specific times. The more bitter the relations between US and China become, and the more their conflicts increases, Iran should use this issue like the Biden era, like when they used the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, because it took their focus away from Iran, and Iran was able to do a lot of work. And this is the same situation with US and China, and creates an opportunity for Iran, uh, as to you know maybe do some take some important steps economically and opening new corridors. Um, it seems to me that in these 3 months leading up to May and June, Iran should strengthen its capabilities, its strategic game cards, its alignment, and its leverage as much as possible. Uh, the removal, as you might have heard in the news, Mr. Hemeti, the Minister of Economy, was removed. He was impeached by the we call it Majlis, which is an equivalent of the Congress, Parliament. He was impeached and removed, and it had immediately good effects on the economy. The real's value increased a bit, and but there's a mindset inside Iran which is a prevailing mindset that has caused economic collapse for the past two decades. We have to see if that mindset is going to. It was the mindset of Mr. Hemeti, the Minister of Economy, and it's the prevailing mindset that has created uh, significant issues for the economy. It's the liberal mindset that by printing money you can solve economic problems, and that do not focus on manufacturing, production, and things that bring life to the economy. Um, so I will try to quickly make another program for you about what wrong ideas and wrong analysis existed in Iran regarding Ukraine. and where the situation in Ukraine is heading. Good luck, guys. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and share it with your friends. That's how this channel is going to grow. Take care and bye.